Yeah.
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 Hello! Here we are. We ready?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
I'm
having my coffee. I'm ready to cook. Cheers.
Boom. Hey, thanks for tuning in. We'll give you guys a second here to jump on. Go ahead and share this video. And share it. Go ahead and share it to your relatives who are actually went to South Point Church building right now, and they're standing in the parking lot going, I don't understand.
Where'd everybody go?
So I'm glad you guys are here. You actually paid attention. And yeah, I'll call you out. For those of you that messaged me on Facebook and Instagram and, hey, Pastor, are we having church today? No,
Yes, we're having church.
Yeah, well, yeah, but
in our kitchen, because we're cooking with the Wendels today.
And we shared that how many times?
1,043 times. 1,043
But
times.
next week, all right, so next week, 1 week from today, we are back in-house for our very first in-person live service at South Point, 9 and 10:15. And yep, you'll be putting your beautiful seats in our beautiful new seats. And what do they have? They
have
cup holders. What? We so bougie now. We got cup holders like, in church. Anywho.
Yeah.
So this is actually the first Sunday of the new year. And so with that, there's a lot of traditions, right?
Yeah.
There's people that, here's the funny thing. Culture, like around the world, has different traditional things that you're supposed to eat to start the new year off with. And South Point, we have a tradition that we start the year out with, ironically, which is the exact opposite, which is we fast.
We don't eat.
We don't eat. So
don't
we are, let me just say this before we get into this. Today's the irony because we're cooking
with the Wendels. And then next week we're going to start fasting.
And we're going to fast.
That's the last one. Last hurrah right here.
And I'm actually going to talk a little bit about fasting today while she's cooking. But before we do that, so our fast starts January 8th. It'll go for 7 days. So that's our tradition. We'll talk about that. Yep. But there are a lot of traditional meals around the world.
Yeah, I mean, we're not really superstitious because we don't believe in luck. We believe in being blessed. But there are lots of superstitions and lots of traditional foods that people eat. Like for prosperity in the South, you eat black-eyed peas. So today we are making black-eyed pea salad. This is the beginning of it, or AKA Texas caviar. Some of you know it as Texas caviar, which is really good on scoops, tortilla chips. They're really great.
Yeah, that is.
Another thing that you eat in the South is greens. And I told you guys we were going to do this a little healthier. So today, instead of like cooking greens, because I don't want the smell in my house, and neither one of us really eat greens.
I don't eat greens.
We're gonna have spinach salad.
Spinach salad.
And strawberry salad. We're going to have that instead. And then
because greens taste like boo-boo cheese.
Yeah, they don't taste as bad as they smell when they're cooking. Oh, it's awful. But anyway.
But if you mix them with chitlins, it's worse.
No. Yes. And another thing that people in the South eat is cornbread. So we have pre-made really good Tex-Mex cornbread with some peppers and stuff in it. And all of these recipes will be added to this Facebook page after all of this. I'm going to upload a PDF of all of these recipes so you guys can make them as well.
Before you do that, I have a surprise for them.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. The one thing that nobody knows.
So a few people know.
Well, okay. Very few people know.
So the other night we had family in town and we were like, hi, you know what we could do? It'll be fun. Let's go race go-karts.
Yeah,
and so
that'd be great.
Did, and we signed the waiver and all of that.
Yeah, you know that waiver you signed without reading it at all? Yeah, we all signed it. And Craig cut his finger off.
Broke my finger, slap off my hand. What had happened was there was a guy behind me and I power braked around a corner and he was going to drift around the corner, and so he went full speed into me and hit me, but didn't just hit me. His cart went up and landed like on top of me and trapped me in the car, and it severed my pinky off my hand, but they did put it back on.
Well, it didn't completely sever it. The skin was still holding it on for the most part.
We have pictures. Here's the first picture. No, you don't want pictures.
We do have pictures. If you want to see them, we can send them to you.
But they did put it back on, and so with some pins, and so you get to look at me this way for a while, but they did leave my preaching finger. So I get to still point at you and tell you what's up.
Yeah.
So with that being said, my lovely wife is doing Like
the lion's share of the cooking.
How about she's doing all of the cooking? I'm here just to commentate. Is that a word, commentate?
It is a word.
Okay, I'm just here to commentate. So, Patty, what's the first thing we're cooking here? I'll point it out.
Let me go through the rest of the traditions, and then I'll tell you the rest of the things that we're doing.
I'm sorry.
Different countries have different things too. In China, they eat dumplings because they look like purses. They look like little money pouches. And in Russia, they have this thing called pelmani.
Vodka?
Pelmani. I think it's Pelmani. I don't know how you say it. But anyway, it's basically like a dumpling because they look like coin purses. So those are for prosperity. Abundance and progress. You can eat pork and lentils because pork, you eat it because pigs root forward. They never root backwards. They always root forward. And lentils expand when you cook them. So that's why you eat lentils.
Are you learning something today? Because I am. I
Yeah.
didn't know pigs never rooted backwards.
Yes. In Spanish cultures, you eat 12 good luck grapes at midnight because the
What if you
grapes-
get a bad luck grape?
one for every month.
Does it come out in the end?
Whatever. Okay, and then in Ireland, you eat round sweets, which we have made. Well, we previously made.
Yeah.
This is what's left of our pound cake. We made pound cake over the holidays, and I made my family save these 2 pieces so we could have them. But we're going to have pound cake because you eat round sweets in Ireland, and we're adding a fruit salad to that because it's just better that way because you put fruit on top of it and it makes it better. So I'm going to work on the. I'm gonna work on the Texas caviar right now. So I'm gonna add this stuff in.
What's already in here?
What's already in here is black-eyed peas, black beans, and shoe peg corn.
Okay.
Yep. And then we're gonna add tomatoes and red and green peppers and jalapenos and parsley and chives. And then I'm gonna put some liquid stuff together to be like a dressing.
How about you tell us what it is while you're putting it in?
Okay.
Instead of all at once. We can't keep up. Can you keep up? I can't keep up.
I'm adding tomatoes right now.
And these tomatoes were flown in last night from Italy. Okay, so they are as fresh as they can be. We went ahead.
I bought these tomatoes at Kroger.
We went ahead
sure where
and
they
spent
came
the
from.
extra money, just doing this whole prosperity thing for the new year. So we spared no expense on the tomatoes, straight up from Italy. In fact, Pastor Marco
Marzano tomatoes from
Pastor
Italy.
Marco picked them for us.
Oh, okay, we're going there. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Okay.
So while she's putting that together, I'm gonna insert little fasting things here. So because I think that's fun. That mixed with food, why not? It's interesting to me that a lot of churches don't even talk about fasting anymore at all.
Red and green bell peppers.
It's
chopped
like
up. It looks
Christmas.
like Christmas in a bowl. Yep.
Oh, that's so cute.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, okay. A lot of churches don't talk about fasting anymore, and I think it's just because as Americans we're not very good at
Jalapenos.
We're not very good at jalapenos.
You said for me to tell what I'm putting in here as I do it, so I'm doing that. But I'm interrupting you every time I do it.
You're awesome.
So do you want me to interrupt or do you not?
Well, that's normal.
Watch it. Okay.
It's going to be a good year. Fun year.
Chopped green onions. This is supposed to have red onion in it, but I don't like red onions, so we're putting chives in it.
Okay, so I think we don't like anything that involves pain and fasting. Every year I say we're going to fast, there's always a contingency of people that are like, oh, I could never do that. I could never fast. I have to have this, or I have to have my Mountain Dew, or I have to have my coffee, or I have to have whatever. Let me just say, those are some pretty flimsy excuses because you can do it. You can. But what is fasting? Okay, so in Matthew chapter 6, here's your verse for the day. Matthew chapter 6, verse 16, Jesus says, when you fast, okay? And in that same chapter, he says, when you pray and when you serve the poor. Okay, so he's got these, when you do these things. And I want you to understand something. It's not, when you fast, it's not a command. He doesn't say you have to fast. Okay, watch this. He doesn't say, it's not even a choice. It's a messianic, that is a big word, messianic presumption. He is presuming that if you are going to follow him, you will fast. It's just part of what we do. And so for us in Christianity following Jesus, if we don't fast, I think Jesus is kind of like, why are you not? So if you're totally unfamiliar with what fasting is, while my beautiful assistant Or actually, I'm your assistant today.
I'm trying not to make too much noise while you're doing that.
Anywho.
We'll put it back in this pretty bowl when we're done.
Yeah, you will. She's got to mix it all up and look it all good there. Yeah. So, if we're going to follow Jesus, it's going to require a little bit. Did you know following Jesus is not always comfortable? So, what is fasting? Fasting is the voluntary. It would help if I had you on stage on Sunday just to fix all my. I'd invent less words that way.
You would, yes.
Fasting is a voluntary pushing back of food. Okay. It is setting aside food for a temporary time to grow in some area. Okay, and so that means when you push back food, yes, you will get a headache. Yes, it's a little bit uncomfortable. Yes, it's not a walk in the park, but you can do it. You can do it. All right, I got more, but what are you doing right now?
Half a cup of olive oil.
For what?
This is the dressing for the Texas caviar. So this is the liquid. It's half a cup of olive oil. Glug, 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 glug. Half a cup of olive oil.
Glugs.
Glugs. You want to put that away? Is that something you can do? Can you put that away? 3 tablespoons of honey. Y'all, look at this cute little bottle of honey. This honey was raised by our very own Jason and Amanda Burton. They have bees, and we're using their honey in our stuff. So 3 tablespoons.
Does it taste like the bee's knees?
I don't know, taste it. Stick your finger in there.
That was a joke.
Oh, I hope it doesn't taste like the bees. I don't know. Do bees make honey with their... No, they don't make honey with their knees. They make honey with their bottom. Honey is bee poop, right? I mean, that's what it is. Okay. So 3 tablespoons of honey. So this is going to take a while, so keep talking. This takes a minute. 3 tablespoons of honey out.
Oh, well, I do have lots more to say, but let me say this. On Facebook there, do you guys have any questions or comments about the upcoming year? Or
we are monitoring the comments, so if you have anything you want to ask
like that, yeah, if you have something, throw that in there. And
if you want to give a shout out to the awesome thing that happened, the awesome video that we watched last night, it was so good, y'all.
That was so much fun.
Yep.
The New Year's Eve spectacular for swingers.
Swinging, oh my Lord, swinging spectacular.
For swingers.
No, not for swingers.
Look, we even have pineapple.
We do have pineapple.
You don't get it. Okay.
You only get that if you're a swinger.
So if you do want, which we're not, by the way, nor do we condone it, it's just a joke. So all of you that want to get all, it's just a joke. So if you want to say something, that's great, say something. So back to fasting for just a second. Fasting is a beautiful spiritual discipline. And what it does for me, okay, I'll just talk personal for a second. Every year when I fast, what it does is I push back food, right? And I don't eat for those days. And it allows my spirit man to kind of catch up with my body, I feel like. It allows my soul to catch up with my body. There's an old story. It is a true story, but I don't remember the actual person, the lady. There was these explorers. It was in Africa. And they were transporting, and the Americans, get over there with all their equipment and all this stuff, and they hire some locals to carry all their stuff. They're like porters or whatever they call them. Anyway, so the Americans wanted to get to where they were going, so they pushed really hard for 2 days. I mean, woke up first thing in the morning, and just walked and hiked all day, and they did that for 2 days.
1/4 cup of apple cider vinegar.
On the 3rd day, they get up again because they were still several days out, and all of the porters were not getting up. They didn't wake up. They didn't pick up the luggage, nothing like that. And the explorer went to them and said, "What's going on? We got to go. We got to go." And they said, "No, we're waiting here for our souls to catch up."
Ooh.
Isn't that a cool story?
Yeah.
We're waiting for our souls to catch up. And fasting is one of those ways that I think it allows our souls to catch up with us. We're so busy, right? Like right now, some of you have already turned off of this Cooking with the Wendels because you've got things to do. Just think about it. We're always from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. Fasting allows us to slow down and just pause. Pause.
Just be. Oh, me?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
I'm putting in a 1.5 teaspoon of chili powder.
Okay. And who in our family always says it's too hot?
Phoebe.
Always. Phoebe, no matter what. Just black pepper. Phoebe's like, it's just too
hot.
hot.
It's so hot. I'm like, oh my gosh. Whatever. 1.5
Okay, people
teaspoons.
have asked a couple questions.
Okay.
Oh.
Would you like me to read some?
Sure, why not?
All right. So Jessica Lee asks, what about fasting from social media instead of food?
I'm getting to that. Oh, yeah, I'm getting to that. Oh, hold up. As soon as the Texas caviar is done and we move on to the next, I'm going to answer that question.
Yep.
All right, what's another one?
If you have medical issues, can you fast part of the day or should it be a certain amount of time?
I am going to cover that in just a second, too, but I love the questions. I absolutely love the questions.
A teaspoon of garlic powder.
And so basically what I'm saying is I'm going to answer those questions, but you have to tune
You have
in.
to stay on here.
Stay on after, what do they say on like real TV?
We're back, I don't know.
After these
We haven't watched
we'll-
real TV in so long. How would we know?
haven't. How about anybody else out there not
Garlic
watched
powder.
real TV in a long time? You just watch like Netflix and Hulu and stuff.
A teaspoon
Okay.
of salt.
A teaspoon of salt. All right, are you about done
And
with this?
almost,
This dish
this
is
is-
taking
this is
forever.
it.
I thought this was an
And the
easy one.
pepper. Half a teaspoon of pepper.
It's just like this dip for chips and this taking up the whole show. She needs to move on. We got things to do.
Well, since I'm the only one that can work around here.
Anyway, okay. So next Sunday, my message is going to be about fasting, and we really are going to drill down and be more specific. But let me give you, since you've already chummed the waters, if you will, with these beautiful questions, let me just give you 3 fasting preps. So these are things that you can start thinking about this week before it starts, just to prepare yourself, because there are some things. Fasting is easier, it really is, if you prepare yourself for it. If you just jump in, number one, if you've never fasted before, don't start with like, I'm not going to eat any food or drink anything.
No food, no water for 7 days.
You will fail.
You
You will fail. Don't
Yeah.
set yourself up for failure. Set yourself up for success. Like our next gen pastor Carson, he tried to do no food and no water last week. He's behind that camera.
last year.
Last year, he's behind that camera right there. He's
He nearly passed out.
He's not going to try that again this year. We're going to fast appropriately. But here's the first thing. Decide what you're going to fast. Okay, so what are you going to fast? And so with that, there's some different kinds of fasts. All right, so there's...
Doesn't that smell good?
That does smell good. Is that the olive oil?
It's the apple cider vinegar that you smell. And the honey together.
And the
Okay.
honey, that's what makes it
Yeah,
together. Because
yeah.
apple cider vinegar by itself is
Yeah,
not...
no, the honey cuts it. Yep.
Hey, do any of you do that, little random, do any of you do that tablespoon of apple cider vinegar with the mother? They call it with the mother.
Yeah.
And you take it every single day. It's supposed to like...
Helps your gut. This goes in the fridge for about an hour, and then you eat it with chips. So there you go, Texas caviar.
That's really good. I like that one. Okay, so there's different kinds of fasts. No? There's different kinds of fasts. So there's like a partial fast, there's a complete fast, and then there's a crazy fast. All right, so let's break down. The first one is a partial fast. And so what that means, it can be different things. One of the fasts that is very common, especially biblically in the Old Testament and even in the New Testament, would be a sun up to sundown fast. And so they considered that fasting the day because the sun's up. I know, whatever, track with me. So if the sun's up, you're not eating. You're drinking, you're having water or juice or whatever you decide. Again, make a decision. And then when the sun goes down, eat. That's a really good fast if you, especially this time of year where the sun sets early.
Pause.
What?
Switch. I need to be on that side now. Yeah. Now I'm going to make the fruit salad to go on top of the
Fruit salad. Yummy, yummy.
Does anybody
Fruit
remember
sa-
that? Fruit salad.
That's from the Wiggles, isn't it?
Right? I think it's the Wiggles. Yep. Okay.
And now it's in your brain all
Yeah,
day.
you're
welcome.
You're going to be thinking about that all
Fruit
day. So
salad.
we're making the fruit salad to go on top of the pound cake. So it starts with peach pie filling, and I did cut the peaches so just make them bite size. And I'm standing here cutting the peaches a while ago, and I'm cutting them with a scissor because that's the easiest way. And Carson walks by and he goes, "Why are you cutting those egg yolks with scissors?" Okay, they're not egg yolks, it's peaches. So it's a can of peach pie filling,
Is that
which
your
is,
best Carson imitation?
well, I don't do it often, so yeah, I guess that's the best one I got.
Hey, why are you cutting those egg yolks?
Well, it wasn't like that. It was like, "Why are you cutting those egg yolks?"
Well,
But
all right.
anyway, it's peach pie filling, so this is the only liquid This is the binding stuff, is the pie filling stuff.
Okay.
So we're going to put some other fruit in it.
Partial fasting, so sun up to sundown. And with that partial fast, there's all these things that you can fit in there. So you can do all day, but then you can like fast all the time, like even when the sun is down, whatever. But then partial being, okay, I'm only going to fast maybe meat. Or, okay, some of you are saying, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to fast just vegetables. All right, not like that. But picking something.
It has to be something that you like.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't fast something you don't like anyway, because that's not really fasting. That's just being picky.
I was trying to think of something real quick and witty that I don't like, that's what I was going to fast. But
you're going to fast turnip greens.
Turnip greens and chitlins. I am fasting turnip greens, chitlins, and hog mog. Does anybody know what hog mog is?
Yes, I'm sure
Come
there
on.
are people who do.
Post in the comments if you know what hog mog is. Just go ahead and spoil it for everybody.
Tell everybody what hog mog is.
Okay, so partial fast. So then you would fast just like maybe something, right? Now, as far as the question goes with social media, I think just fasting social media is not fasting, okay? Because biblically, it's always food. It's always putting back, because your physical body requires food, right?
Okay. And you would say, well, they didn't have social media in the Bible, so maybe they would have had that. But they didn't say fast being together or being social with one another or getting together or going to church or anything else, because that would have been their social life, which is what social media is to us. So they didn't fast those things. So it's just a social media fast is not scriptural.
Yeah, and with that food, it feeds our physical body, right?
Yeah.
And so the whole idea of fasting is we're trying to do away with our flesh and lean more into the spirit man and our soul space. And so we want to feed our spirit and starve our flesh, right?
Okay, are we telling what's going in this? So far I have put a small can of chunked pineapple. I bought the in the juice kind, not the in the syrup kind, because
chunky and juicy.
Because it's healthier.
You know, those are just two words that don't sound very.
And then bananas sliced up, and then I just sliced up some kiwi, and now I'm going to slice up strawberries, and then you just mix it all together and put it on top of the cake.
And it's really good. Where was I? Partial fast, and so it feeds our spirit man, not our flesh. And so social media. Here's my take on social media. Obviously, there's not a scripture for it because, like my beautiful bride said, there's no social media in the Bible. Obviously, Al Gore had not invented the internet yet. Elon Musk hadn't taken over Twitter. Anywho, social media is a fantastic additive. I make it a fasting additive. Should you still fast food? Yes, but I would highly recommend you also fast social media, because social media is just one of the, let's be honest, it's so noisy, right? Social media is constantly telling us other people's opinions and all of that. So we're trying to limit those voices in our lives.
Yep.
To hear his voice. And so we replace all of this worldly junk.
It's good preaching.
I'm sensing sarcasm.
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay.
It's not sarcasm. It's
just
for real.
Felt a little sarcasm.
No, you'll know it when I'm sarcastic.
I bet I will.
Like just then, did you get it?
So we're trying to hear his voice. So along with the fasting, the other thing you do is you pray more, hopefully. You know, turn the TV off, set the phone down, and spend that time that you would have been eating, spend it in prayer. How about that, right? That would be really, really cool. All right, so I got a couple more, but why don't you tell us?
Yeah, don't you also tell us too when we're fasting? Maybe you're going to say this. If you're going to say this, just say that'll be in a minute. That when you're fasting and you get hungry, then that's a really good time to stop and say, "Okay, Lord, I want you more than I want food today."
I was not going to say that, but I normally say that every
do.
year. For me, again, talking about when I fast, when I get those hunger pains, because if you're fasting,
you're going to
get hunger pains. I just say out loud, I'm like, that pain in my stomach, as hungry as I am for a double cheeseburger.
And
fries. Oh my God, it's so good. As hungry as I am for that, the pain that I want for that, I'm that hungry for you, God. And so we just really want to expand that. All right, what do you got going on right there?
I'm cutting up the strawberries to go on this fruit salad. Fruit salad, yummy, yummy.
Fruit salad.
And then I'll cut the cake and show you how to serve this in case you want to know that as well.
Okay, so we have partial fast, right? And then a full fast would be a complete fast. In other words, And that's usually what I do when we do 7 days is no food at all and just water. So no juices, no shakes, no smoothies, just water. Maybe a little black coffee, only because there's no no nutritional value in it. But that would be a complete fast. Would be just water. And then I mentioned
light beer.
No, can't have light beer. That would not be even light beer. Yeah, nothing but water.
We always get asked that. What about light beer? No, light beer is still alcohol.
Another one is I call it the crazy fast. The Bible calls it the Esther fast. 3 days with no food or water. So that means for 3 days, nothing passes through your mouth. That is extremely difficult.
Tell why Esther did that though, because that was there was a lot going on in her life that caused her to do something that crazy, right? I mean, she didn't just say, "Oh, I want to lose 10 pounds. Let's fast."
No, her entire race was about to be extinguished. They put out
the entire Jewish nation.
What's it called?
A decree.
A decree. A decree. Thank you. A hitman. A decree. The king put out a decree to kill all the Jews, and so Esther was fasting to go see the king to save her people. So it was a pretty big deal. But I would highly not recommend doing 3 days of nothing passing your mouth. You do you, boo. You know what I'm saying?
Beep, beep.
But that's a tough one. That's a tough one. And then there's also the Daniel fast, which we're not really doing. You can do it if you want to. That's 21 days of no meats, sweets, or breads.
Or alcohol.
Meat, sweets, breads, and alcohol. But we're doing 7 days at South Point. So you have the partial fast. You got that sun up to sundown. You can mix some things in. You got a full fast. Just a liquid fast. Some people will do that where you don't have any food. You only drink like juices, water, juices, shakes, smoothies. Put a bologna sandwich in the blender.
No, that doesn't work.
No, it doesn't work. Okay. And then one of the questions on Facebook. Do we have any more questions, Katie?
Okay, wait. Before she says that, let me show you how you do this. So here's the pound cake. We cut the pound cake. This is the round sweet, which is a Irish thing. So you take this, and then you have this yummy fruit salad stuff.
Yummy, yummy.
And you just dip it on top. That's what we're going to do.
She's taking time to show you this like you don't know how to dump fruit on a pound cake.
You just...
It's not really cooking with the Wendels. This is like dumping with the Wendels. Wait, that sounds horrible.
Yeah, don't say that. That's disgusting.
What'd you do Sunday? Oh, I was dumping with the Wendels.
That's a good segue into questions.
All right.
Okay, there we go. Let's get off that subject.
So, will you quickly just repeat the dates for the fast?
Yes, January 8th through January 15th. So if you start that Sunday to Sunday.
There's me one.
That's Sunday to Sunday. And so what I do is I start my fast on Saturday night, January 7th at sundown. That's when I start. And so what does that mean? That means by Saturday, January 14th at sundown, I start eating. So that's the dates right there.
All right. So Mac has a really good question. What are we fasting for as a church in 2023?
I'll tell you what we're fasting for as a church. Maximus, McFarland, I'm assuming that's who it is.
These are our greens. We're going to have spinach salad. You told me.
You're awesome. I love it. Just these interjections. We're fasting for a couple things, Mac. We're fasting for, how can I say it? The dam to be opened up, the gates to be opened up on contractors and work being done. You guys know it's been a huge ordeal with the community center and just the progress in the building itself. And so, and we can say that that's all contractors and code and all that stuff, but the Bible tells us that that we don't fight against flesh and blood, but against spirits. And so, not trying to go too deep or whatever, but prayer and fasting changes history. It just does.
Esther saving her entire race because she fasted. Yeah. You can change governmental eyes and ears and minds and thoughts with fasting. So let's fast for that.
Let's do it. So fasting for that specifically, that's like one of them, that's like up here. And then I would always throw in a couple other things, fasting for the health of the church, just together as a corporate body, and what that looks like as health, not necessarily growth, but health. I think COVID really, the pandemic and being in lockdown and all that showed us the lack of discipleship in Christians across the world, not just here and not just South Point, but across the world. And
all of our pastor friends are telling us it's the same at all of their churches as well.
100%. And so just leaning really into growing all of us spiritually in discipleship. So that's.
We got some new discipleship groups coming in the fall, and they're going to be awesome. We're going to be setting those up specifically for men and women. So be watching for those if you want to be a part of that discipleship. It's going to be awesome. All
right. Is there another question, or do you want me to go on with?
Renee is just laughing at dumping with the Wendels.
Well, So one of the questions, while she looks up any more questions, one of the questions that you asked earlier was, if you have health concerns, what about fasting? If you have diabetes I'm not going to name stuff. I'm not a doctor, okay? But if you know your body, if you have anything going on, then yes, go talk to a physician, right? And tell them your plans and let them monitor you or give you some advice. Fasting, it's not to be stupid or unwise, right? So if you have physical issues, then definitely take that into consideration.
But a lot of physicians will tell you that fasting is really good for your body because it does. It helps to reset your body. It helps to reset your gut. It helps you to just be healthier. And don't say, well, I can't because I have this health issue. Because your doctor may actually be like, yeah, you need to do that. I would have loved for you to have done that a long time ago. You just didn't ask. Because it resets your body, but it also... It detoxes you, which is another thing you might want to talk about. Something that happens when you're fasting, because that happens sometimes.
I'm going to
detox. Oh, is that on your list?
Uh-huh.
Dang, we are so good.
Man, boom. When you picked the spinach out of the garden this morning, why didn't you just pick the stems off then?
I didn't take the time to do that. I needed something to do to make me look like I was cooking.
Yeah, well, I can't do that.
Yeah, I know. So many things he can't do right now. There are a couple people that missed the beginning that are asking about your hand.
Oh, so my hand. So this Sunday coming up, the people in the lobby who ask what happened to my hand will be the ones who did not tune into this show. So what happened was, real quick, we went, decided to take the family go-karting, racing go-karts over the holidays.
The high-speed ones, that go like 50 miles an hour.
And so
we were having so much fun.
We were having a great time, and this dude behind me, I came around a corner, and I power braked around the corner, and he drifted around the corner, and so he hit me full speed and T-boned me, but instead of just hitting me, for whatever reason, his cart jumped up on top of my cart and landed on top of me and trapped me in the cart. My shoulder's all tore up, but it's not broken. Woohoo! But what happened was, my hand being on the steering wheel, because you always keep both hands. I was going to be texting while driving, but I thought that wasn't wise. Turns out I should have been, because it would have had my hand off the steering wheel. My hand got caught in between the cart and the steering wheel, and it lopped off my pinky. Yeah.
Okay, it didn't completely lop it off.
Well, the skin held it in place.
But it did. It broke the bone. 90 degree angle break.
So they put it back on with pins, and it should be okay, but you get to have me like this for, a month or so. Woohoo. Okay. Anywho, if you have health issues, are there any other questions?
We're going to add strawberries to this salad. Spinach. Go ahead.
If you have health issues, then yes, definitely talk to your doctor and get that all sorted out, right? You don't want to be silly with fasting, because it is...
Don't be a silly goose.
Don't be a silly goose. All right. Any more questions, Katye, before I move on here? We're still... Yeah? No?
I think Stacy has a question.
Okay,
Stacy.
Stacy.
If I can word this correctly. Can you touch... Oh, sorry, I just moved. Can you touch on fasting without complaining and or discussing fast for attention?
Yes, that's a great question. And that's not on my list, so I will answer that right now. So there is a scripture in Matthew chapter 6, in verse 16, which we already talked about. He says, when you fast. And then Jesus keeps going, right? Talk about fasting. Verse 16, 17, 18, and I think 19. And in there, he says, hey, when you fast, don't let other people know you're fasting. Don't complain. Go, take a shower, clean yourself up, fix your hair, in all that Bible language stuff. Here's what he's not saying. He's not saying keep it a secret.
Right.
Okay? Because here's what happens when you're fasting. If somebody says, hey, do you want to go eat lunch? No, I'm not eating. I'm not eating lunch. Why not? I can't tell you. Okay, or you make something up. And what happens is, because you want to follow that scripture, you think you need to lie to cover up your fasting, and lying is not, that ain't good.
Nope, lying's still sin.
What Jesus is burning hell, right? Revelation 21:8,
Yep.
liars burning hell. What Jesus is saying is, don't make a big show of it, right? Don't walk in the room. Okay, I'll say this. There's a couple years ago, I had already covered this, and a lady came into church, and she might be watching. So if you did, hey. She came into church, and I said, how you doing this morning? Good morning. She said, oh my God, this fasting is so hard. I'm having such a hard time. I can't. And she just goes down this rabbit trail of just making it this big to-do. And I'm like, that is exactly what Jesus told us not to do. And the reason we're fasting together is because we can talk about it. Hey, I'm fasting this. I'm struggling here, that, but don't complain and don't make a big to-do about it. I hope that answers your question. And then the other quick little thing is, don't ever make big decisions while you're fasting. Don't ever do that.
Don't quit a job, get married, get divorced, move. Don't decide any of those things. We're adding almond slivers to our strawberry and spinach salad. And then I have this is a really cool little thing. I bought this at Kroger. For this particular salad, everybody knows when you put salad dressing on spinach, it gets wilted and it gets yucky. So you're supposed to have balsamic vinegar dressing on this. And used to, back in the day when we first started eating this, you could buy spray balsamic vinegar dressing. Well, obviously, there's something happened and you can't do
COVID.
that. No, it was before COVID, because we haven't seen it in a while. But you can buy
COVID
this
was
thing.
actually spread through spray bottles. That's why there's no longer spray bottles allowed in.
This is a mister. You just put whatever you want in it. So I put balsamic vinegar in it.
Because COVID is not big enough to go through a mister. So a mister you can. You interrupted me.
Your hand's in the way of the mister. Yeah,
Okay, go ahead. Continue on.
Okay, I'm gonna hurt you.
Don't hurt me.
So this is the mister. I poured our balsamic vinegar dressing in here, and then you just spray it on like this.
Like deodorant.
Sorta. But then it gets the flavor on there, but it doesn't just like douse your salad.
Ain't that cool?
Yep.
You're so good.
And then we're gonna
with
put
it.
some slivered almonds on it. And it's supposed to have feta cheese, but we forgot the feta cheese.
Which is a bummer, because feta cheese with the strawberry and the
Yeah, we
bite
might
of
see
that.
if there's some other kind of cheese in the fridge that would.
It's really good, really good. I'd recommend the feta cheese. Okay, a couple more things. So just two more things on this fasting. So the first one is decide what kind of fast you're going to embark on, right? Starting on the 8th. And then the second thing is this week. This is huge. This is huge. Pay attention. Huge. Pay attention.
Huge.
This week, start weaning yourself off of the things that you know you are addicted to. And I know you're a good Christian little girl, and you're going to say, oh, me, I'm not addicted to anything. Liar, you're addicted to lying, for one. You're also probably addicted to Mountain Dew or coffee or sugar or something like that. Trust me.
Or power tea. What are they called? Those teas that everybody drinks?
Oh, the power tea? Are they power tea?
Loaded teas.
Loaded
teas, yeah. Try to lay that one down immediately and see what
Or
happens
Red
to your
Bulls.
body.
Red Bulls.
Yeah.
Anyway, if you start... If you... You're awesome. If you start weaning yourself off this week, it just gets easier. So, for example, I do drink coffee. Y'all know that. And so,
A lot.
started...
How many cups have you had today?
5.
Yeah.
But it's Sunday. I'm not starting my weaning yet. So, this week, I will start probably Tuesday or Wednesday, I'll have 2 cups. And then the next day, 1 cup, and then like half a cup. And then I'll start fasting coffee probably like Friday or Saturday, before it ever gets here, because I'll be done with it. So, anywho, just start weaning yourself off. I'm just telling you, it'll make it so much easier, because when you push back the plate, that's on January 8th, you're going to have a headache. You're going to have all this stuff going on.
That looks really yummy.
That does look yummy.
Yeah.
What is it? And then I'll move on to the third thing.
This is Mexican cornbread. I'll have to put the recipe on the Facebook thing because I don't have it. But it's cornbread, but it's got 2 kinds of cheese and creamed corn and green chilies in it. So you do this and you put a little butter on it. That's supposed to be a tradition. You eat bread with butter. And you eat cornbread. So we're just going to have cornbread with butter. But I'm not going to put the butter on it until we heat it up. Because we're going to heat it up.
You know, I just had a thought. Wouldn't it be horrible if I'm sticking my finger out like this and you cut it off with that knife, and then I'd be like...
You'd be completely...
I'd be really messed up. Okay, so the first one is decide what you're fasting, right? Because Jesus is assuming we're fasting. And then the second one is, so decide what you're fasting, partial fast, full fast, blah, blah, blah. Second one is wean yourself off of these things that you know you're addicted to. And then the third one, here's the third one, which this goes back to what Max said earlier, his question, but I answered it earlier, but I'm going to do it again. What's your goal? Decide what your goal for fasting is. Now,
he asked what South Point's goal was, but we need to have a personal goal as well.
Yes, and so let me shake things up a little bit here, because I've heard this over the years, and it's just kind of like, I don't really say anything because I'm like, The goal of fasting is not to lose weight.
Right.
The goal of fasting is not even to get healthier.
Right.
Okay, it's just not the goal.
Those are byproducts, but it's not
Is it
the
a
goal.
side effect?
Right.
Yeah, it is. But that's not, what?
I just want to make sure I'm standing by you.
Oh, baby, come here.
And I didn't want to show you.
It is a side effect of it, all right? But it's really important that you have a goal. And so let me challenge you with this goal. I was thinking about this the last few days. I've just kind of been praying through what my goal is and what I'm fasting about.
Since you've not been able to do anything.
And I felt like this. I started bringing up things in my mind, you know, oh, the Wendell family, you know, personally, okay, this for my kids or this for that or, you know. And I felt like the Lord said, so are you trying to twist my arm into obeying your will, or is this just straight manipulation?
Ooh.
And I had to take a deep breath, because if we're not careful, we can think of fasting as a tool that will manipulate God's hand. And that is not, it's just not what it is. And that's really, it gets wrong and sideways. And that's where you fall into, you can go read Isaiah 58, talks about the wrong kind of fasting and all of that. So how about this for a personal goal? You can have other goals, but how about this for a personal goal, just for all of us South Pointers? What if our goal is to increase our relationship with Jesus Christ? And by that, what I mean is we become more attentive to his voice, and it becomes more clear. We hear his voice through the white noise of the world, right? What do you think about that? What would that look like to you?
That would be great for me, because then you're not twisting or trying to manipulate God. What you're actually doing is twisting and manipulating you to fit to God's plan.
Yeah.
So that's what it is. Because you're going to take control of your body by fasting. So take control of your spirit as well, and just say, okay, Lord, I want to line up with whatever it is that you have for me this year. And sometimes that's a scary thing to pray. Is, Lord, let me line up with whatever you want. That's not always comfortable. That's not always fun.
Because a lot of times we can say, I feel like God said this, and God didn't say that. That was just your situation, your circumstances, or your last resort.
Or maybe he'll tell you to do something that is scary to you, or has been your, like you planting a church. I don't ever want to plant a church. That was one of your things. I don't ever want to plant a church. That was the exact thing you were supposed to do. The thing that you were the most afraid of was the thing that you were supposed to do. So, you never know what God might ask you to do.
So we are fasting. So just ask yourself that question. What would it look like? And maybe you can take this week to kind of process that in your quiet time. What would it look like if my relationship with Jesus Christ grew? Like, what is that space of growth between where you are and where you want to be? What does that relationship growth look like? I know when we started dating, okay, so just relationship-wise, when we started dating, when we first started, we were not near as close as we are now.
Right.
I mean, we've been married for 30 years. We dated for 2 years. 2 years, right? And so over time, you grow because you're in close proximity. But what happens with Jesus is we have the opportunity and ability to maintain our distance from Christ, yet still being in a weaker relationship with him. And so what would this fast look like if it just brought us closer to Christ? And what would that's the question for this week. What would your relationship with Christ look like if it grew? What do you think?
Yeah.
All right. Any last questions?
Oh, one last thing.
Yes.
One last thing about cooking.
Oh, please.
Okay, so one thing that I didn't cook yet, but I'm going to cook as soon as we're done, but it's just really super messy, so I did all this. I'm also going to make cube steak today. Cube steak is not necessarily a traditional food anywhere else, but it is a traditional food in my family. My mom would always make cube steak and biscuits and pinto beans and
A sliced onion.
A sliced onion, and just leave it she just leave it cooking all day, and she made potato salad on the side. Just leave it on the counter so anybody could just eat at any time of the day, because we were all coming and going and watching football and doing all the things. So that's what I'm going to do when we're done here, is I'm going to make some cube steak and some pinto beans.
That's awesome. And speaking of football, just so you all know, Michigan Wolverines were robbed yesterday.
Yes, they
It was
were.
a touchdown, and then it was
Yes.
targeting at the end.
Yeah.
That's just my
Both of
personal
those
take
things
on
happened.
it. And if you saw the Facebook Live, you know that Carson showed up at my house. He's right there in TCU garb.
Yeah.
Whatever. So obviously we no longer have a next-gen pastor in 2023.
We're looking for a next-gen pastor
We
if
just
you know
fired him.
one.
I just fired him right there. Boom.
If you
He
know
gone.
one,
He gone.
we're looking for one.
All right. Any other questions, Katie?
Katie, anything else?
No?
Let's see. Christina Tapley says, "Can we get some ideas of fasting if we aren't able to not eat due to medicines, medical issues?"
Yes. So change. Okay. So that's
The
a great
Daniel
question.
fast is a good one for that.
Tell them about that.
Because the Daniel fast is good because you can eat all the fruits, vegetables, legumes. You can have beans, so you can have all the proteins. You can have grains. You can have all those things. You can have rice. You can have all kinds of things. Just don't eat sweets, bread, meats, and alcohol. So that's where the light beer comes in. No,
Which
you can't
that
have
would
light
also
beer.
be a healthier diet anyway, no
that's a
matter what
healthy
your
diet for
medicine
anybody,
is.
Yeah. That is basically a diabetic diet. So if you do it correctly, that would be what we would suggest if you have to eat to take medicines.
Yep, for sure.
All right. Sherry asks, "We fast as a family, but my daughter is pregnant. Can she fast as well?"
Baby?
She could absolutely do the Daniel fast.
The baby
Yeah.
in her womb fasting? I don't.
Yes, the baby's gonna fast if the daughter's fasting. You're so stupid. Yes, she can still fast. The Daniel fast is still, I mean, you could check with her doctor, but I can almost guarantee you her doctor would be perfectly fine, because you can get all the protein you need. The perfect protein is beans and rice. So if you put beans and rice together, it's a perfect protein. You don't need meat for those 7 days.
All right.
Anything else?
Another one.
Oh.
Christina asked again, "Is it okay to discuss our personal goals with others, like in small groups or with other churches?"
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
For sure. That's how we hold each other
Yep.
accountable. And not like, you should have done it. It's to help
No.
and encourage one another.
And also, it's going to be a testimony when those goals are achieved. Whenever you achieve those goals, it's going to be a great testimony for you to be able to go, "Hey, remember when I told you this is what I wanted to accomplish with Jesus? This happened."
And let me say this about fasting, and I will probably repeat myself this coming Sunday, but I don't think I have personally ever seen God answer a prayer that I was fasting over immediately.
Or while you're fasting.
Or while you're fasting.
Right.
Like, never that I can remember. However, I always see it come to fruition throughout the year or the next year. Like, it happens. It's just always on God's timing, not mine.
Right.
And I think that's better.
But fasting sets it in motion.
But for sure, share those goals, share those things in
Yep.
your small group, with your spouse, with your family. Write them in your journal, whatever. And we'll just
I would suggest that. Write it down. Write down either tell somebody or write it down so that you don't forget, or so that you don't think, well, is this really, when it happens, you can go, was this really what I was praying about? Is this really what I was fasting about? You can go back to it and go, yes, that is exactly what I asked for, and God did it.
Yep. All right. Look, I got my pointer finger out.
Katie, is there anything else? Are we good?
That's the end. No?
There is one small question
Okay.
from Renee.
Okay.
Should we fast from sunset to sunrise or sunrise to sunset, or does it matter?
Don't matter. If the sun's up.
Well, it's according to when you're awake. Don't just fast when you're asleep,
Right.
because that's not really. That's just sleeping. That's not really fasting.
Yes,
Now, but if you work
that's true.
nights and you sleep during the day, then you could do the opposite.
Right.
You know what
That's
I mean?
what I was going to say. Third
Yeah.
shift.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just called sleeping.
This fasting is great. I'm just sleeping and eating. This is great. All right. Hey, we love you all. We will see you this coming Sunday, 1 week from today.
Yep.
In-house,
In
South
our new
Point.
chairs.
In our new chairs.
Yes.
Woohoo!
Yes.
Looking forward to it. It's going to be an awesome time. So honestly, we love you guys. I hope you have a wonderful, happy New Year, and we're going to celebrate all these good God things together. And me and her are going to go eat some food.
Yeah,
All
we
right.
are.
Yeah, we are. We love each other,
Yeah, we do.
and we love you.
Love you guys.
Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year.
Are we clear?
Here.
You got to say clear.
Camera 2 is off. 3, 2, 1.
Oh, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah. Should have done that. Camera 1 off.
Why did that hurt?
What did you do?
Because you're using your hand.
I just reached around and pulled that off my pack. That hurt.
Because you're using your hand.
Oh, God.
You know how hard it is to I know. Your right hand. I know.
See, this says mute when I do this. The turn off is inside, isn't it?
Brother, trust me.